Good morning, everyone. It's great to see a full room of people interested in Zambia and learning why it is open for business. So thank you for coming. Hopefully most of you were in the plenary, so you got a little bit of a taste of what we're going to be talking about today. I was going to give a brief recap, but in the interest of time, I'm going to pivot straight to a very short 90-minute video, which I think really does set the stage perfectly for this conversation. So for those of you turning on the video, please proceed.
Welcome to Zambia, a land of immense business opportunities and home to the iconic Victoria Falls. Rich in natural resources with a young and dynamic population, Zambia is strategically located in southern Africa, along the Lobito corridor, making it a trade hub that connects 8 neighboring countries and global markets. Agriculture plays a pivotal role in Zambia's development, contributing to manufacturing and job creation. The country seeks $900 million to transform its agri-food systems, focusing on value chains in maize, soybeans, honey, and aquaculture. The government, with support from FAO's Hand in Hand initiative and other partners, promotes inclusive growth through strong policies, data-driven decisions, and productive partnerships. Zambia offers a stable and enabling environment for investors with incentives like 100% capital allowance on farming equipment, a 10% income tax rate, streamlined business licensing, and repatriation of profits. Natural advantages such as fertile soils, favorable climate, and strong infrastructure, combined with peace and political stability, make Zambia an ideal investment destination. As a signatory to regional and global trade agreements like the Africa Continental Free Trade Area and COMESA, Zambia is well positioned for cross-border trade. Zambia is a land of business opportunities, ready to secure your agri-food investments. Come and invest. The people of Zambia are waiting for you.
So come and invest. That's the topic we're going to be diving into more deeply today. Please join me in welcoming to the stage again the Minister of Agriculture from Zambia, Honorable Minister Reuben Phiri Mtolo, the CEO of the Millennium Challenge Corporation, Alice Albright. I would also like to welcome to the stage Tai Buan. He is the Senior Vice President and Head of Plant Biotechnology at Bayer. Many of you, I'm sure, know that Bayer plays a major role in the ag sector and in developing high-quality and resilient seeds and crop protection products. And please also welcome Satyamurthy Mayilswamy, the CEO and Managing Director of the Americas at Olam Food Ingredients, also referred to as OFI. OFI is called the brand behind the brand of companies like Starbucks and Nestle, sourcing many ingredients all over the world for brand name food and drink companies. As they get themselves settled in, I would also just like to note that at the Feed the Future Accelerator launch in Washington last month, both Bayer and OFI joined us on the stage to make important announcements about their own investments in Zambia and in the region, and they will be sharing a little bit more about the why and the details of that as well. Okay, is this on? Yeah? Great. Okay, Honorable Minister, I want to start with you. It is really clear, as you spoke so eloquently on the main stage, that Zambia is open for business and has huge potential for ag-led growth. We also know that many of the farmers suffered from a difficult season. There's a serious drought there. But at the same time, what we saw on the screen was evidence that there's just great potential for Zambia to be able to put healthy and nutritious food on the tables of the people of Zambia all year round, as well as support the region, as well as advance exports. If you could share a little bit more, both about your main challenges, as well as how you see the private sector playing a role in unlocking ag potential.
Thank you very much, moderator, and welcome, colleagues. And it's nice to have you here so that you really get comfortable as to why we should go back together to Zambia. let me give first an outline of a small wiggle, a small problem that we had, which we do not consider as something that is going to be there long with us, and that is the drought that we suffered. Unfortunately, last season, Zambia suffered the worst drought in history, and we lost cultivated land. Half of our cultivated land was lost, and this affected half the population of Zambia. Zambia is a very small country in terms of population. We're about 22 million. And we had about 11 million people suffering from the drought that we had, because the areas where the drought hit were the most productive areas of Zambia in terms of the culture to produce, to agriculture. That is the southern part of Zambia, the central part of Zambia, and the eastern part of Zambia, parts of the central province of Zambia. This is where you get a real production. Most of the farmers in the southern part of Zambia and the eastern part of Zambia, small-scale farmers, but if I can use maize as a case point, which here you call corn, that's our major food staple. We eat a lot of it. 96% of it is produced by small-scale farmers. Not a very good thing, because their productivity is very, very low, very, very low indeed. Just to put this into context, as a small-scale farmer, same seed, same soil, same weather, everything, I'll produce 2 tons per hectare. Give it to a commercial farmer, same seed, same everything, 18 tons per hectare of corn. So you can see that there's actually an evil difference there. It's just not right. It's absolutely huge. Now, when the southern and eastern suffered the drought, it meant that half the population of Zambia suffered. We are not going to allow this again. We will not. We are looking at resilience, because it's a solvable issue. And we are ashamed that we had to suffer, and we are suffering that. Zambia, like I indicated in the main hall, is a country that is 75 million hectares of land. Of the 75 million, 42 to 45 million hectares is arable land, and most of it is irrigatable land. You can put your center pivots, you can put your drip irrigation, etc. Zambia is only using about 7 million of the 42 million arable land, meaning we are only using about 17%. So we have got this huge, huge area for yourselves to come and help us. Like I said again in the main hall, we do not have a lot of money as government to put into these things. We want foreign investment to come and help us tackle. Now, you asked a very direct question. How do you hope that we can have this turned into opportunities? Basically, that's the way I understood your question. In irrigation, we need the technology. We need the equipment. And there are a lot of countries, America included, that have the right technology for irrigation. We have the land there, we have the labor there, we have everything, we have the water, everything. If you dig a borehole in Zambia, at about 15 and 20 meters, you find water, but we take it down. Our standard depth of a borehole is 50, 60 meters. But at 15, 20, you find the water. Not 300, not 400 or 500 meters, no, 50 meters is about the maximum of our boreholes. So there's things there. Mechanization. To change the drudgery, like I said, the drudgery of having to farm with a hoe and hand and human labor, to change that, we need investment. Someone to come and set up a tractor company. Someone to come and put up a farm and use tractors. Of course, taking care of the environment, which I think a country like this one is very, very able to do. There is issues of investment in storage. There is hardly any cold chain facility in Zambia, and yet we export strawberries, we export avocado. So it's very isolated, investment in that direction. We need you to come. I don't like it talking while seated. I like standing because I'm a bit expressive in my way of talking. Now here I'm restricted, especially sitting to Her Excellency. So we need that investment in cold chains. My colleagues who I think from the coffee and the seed industry know what I'm talking about. We hardly have the cold chain line in Zambia. So we need that. The roads, I talked a little, I will not take a lot of time there. Then processing. I have a question. Why isn't America investing in Zambia? As individuals, not MCC, not the government. The government, we are good friends. Look at me seated to her. MCC. But what about American investment? Can we just have 4 or 5 only? You know the potential that is in Zambia. So I came here to come and talk to you that we need you to come. Come and put up processing plants for tomato. Come and put up processing plants for strawberries and then send them here. Come and put up processing plants for the honey that we have plenty, probably the best. I'm still quarreling with New Zealand and other countries. They say they have the best honey. No, we have the best honey. I'm still quarreling with them. So we want you to come and invest and bring that honey, to bring that produce in finished product. Is easier to move. So that is why I'm here, essentially. All right, I'll stop here. I'm being guided
Thank you, Honorable
not to
Minister.
continue. Thank you.
He said he was going to pitch Zambia, and I think he's done a very good job, so thank you. Alice, my friend, on the stage you announced or talked about the $491 million compact that's just been signed, and it's how many kilometers of road? You said roughly?
338.
338 kilometers of road are going to be built, but alongside infrastructure and the sort of technical fixes, I might say, that the Honorable Minister spoken about, there are also the thing we call the enabling environment, the reforms in policy and in regulation that really grease the skids, if you will, really make it the place that people want to go and invest. Could you say a little bit more about how the compact is going to advance that agenda?
Yes, thank you, Dina, and you made a great pitch, Minister. Absolutely. In 30 seconds, the way MCC works is that we work hand in hand with countries to identify what are the key constraints to economic growth. And it could be anything from energy to agriculture to roads to ports to water and sanitation. It very much depends on the circumstances in the country. In the case of Zambia, in this compact, we identified that there are a number of constraints towards greater agricultural productivity. So we went about working with the country hand in hand to really specify what are those constraints. And then secondly, what can we do about it? And what makes MCC special is that we are a provider of grant funding only, and given how indebted many countries are right now, that is a rare and precious commodity. And we started working with the government to identify, okay, so what are those constraints? And 3 began to really emerge. One was in some of the particularly productive rural areas, roads were not paved. And so that creates all kinds of problems in terms of getting goods to market, but also the costs that impose on local farmers. So we are going to be paving and rehabilitating 338 kilometers of roads, which is between here and Sioux City, or if you come from where I come from, it's basically Washington to New York, maybe a little bit less. So it's a significant amount of roads, and we think will be very helpful to the communities that are in those very productive rural areas. But there are 2 other parts that are in some ways just as, if not more important, and these are some fundamental changes in how the ag sector actually functions. One is we'll be working with the government to reform certain key laws. There's 3 of them: the Agricultural Credits Act, the Food Reserve Act, and the Agricultural Marketing Bill, that begin to take away some of the distortions that I think have made it a bit difficult for not only local private sector companies to further scale up, but also potentially foreign participants to come in. And we've had some really interesting conversations with the local finance community. The absence of equipment finance in Zambia has made it hard for small-scale farmers to get the financing they need to start to scale up irrigation and mechanization that would enable the country to go from subsistence, small plot farming to more larger scale, productive sizes of holdings. And so we are going to be working with some folks in the financial sector to try to create some incentives to get financing going, particularly on the smaller capital equipment side, where there's really a gap. So the minister talked about storage. If we can't finance actually setting up, or cold chain, if you can't actually finance setting that up, you're not going to get very far. So we are working on some of the key systemic issues that the country, we've worked with the country closely, has faced. We're investing money specifically to fix those. It will take us a few years to get it right, but we also have a small program that will specifically be available to attract private sector companies to come in. But this work is going to help us make the ecosystem for agricultural investing be easier and better. And we very much welcome talking to anybody here about some of the specifics.
Thank you. Excellency, I'll come back to you so we can hear your thoughts on that institutional and policy and regulatory reform agenda. But for now, I'd like to turn to our private sector partners. Ty, 8 years ago, Bayer Crop Science opened an office in Zambia to engage with the local ag sector. Could you share some of the motivations behind that initial decision and your experience so far, your successes, your challenges, and lessons learned?
Yeah, sure. So thank you for inviting us to participate in the meeting today. Before I go to that specific question, the motivation has actually been there for quite a while. Monsanto, before the acquisition by Bayer, we were in Zambia back in 2009, for all the reasons that the minister mentioned. We saw the opportunities in agriculture, we saw the productivity that was going on, and we also had the technologies that we thought that we could bring to bear, switching in maize in particular from open pollinated varieties to hybrid corn systems. And for all of the reasons, again, that have already been mentioned, the productivity can increase dramatically when you move from these open pollinated varieties to hybrid corn. So that started back in the late 2000s. Since that time, and the acquisition by Bayer, the offices that we've opened up in 2016 actually brought to bear the rest of the inputs that would be required to actually make those corn hybrids even more productive. And so from 2016 on, we've had really good experiences in terms of being able to show that the technology, the genetics, the hybrids that we're bringing in actually have a really big impact on smallholder farms. Some of the challenges that have already been mentioned again, the smallholder farms are pretty remote and dispersed. And so getting the seed to them to plant, from them to condition, and then back out for production can be really daunting with the roads, the weather, all of the other infrastructure needs that there are. So those are the main challenges. The other things that we've been doing, though, since then, and it's really got more to do with infrastructure building around the communities that we're in. So not so far from here is Grinnell, Iowa, where we have one of these facilities, just like we're talking about building in Zambia. The community itself actually thrives when we invest in that local community. So from education to jobs, of course, but we have other parts of our business, and our pharma business and consumer health business, that we can also bring in and help the local communities uplift themselves, so that it's not just a corn production facility. And once you do that, then you really start to see the livelihoods and the thriving of the local communities happen. So that was the motivation for really getting into, and we have been in Zambia and other parts of Africa.
You announced at the Feed the Future Accelerator event a $35 million investment in a new seed processing facility. Is there anything more about that specific investment that you might want to share here?
Yeah, so this was a really important investment for us. So the facility, like I mentioned, we have one in Grinnell, but the one that we're putting there is going to be the largest, and it will source corn from the entire region. So what that does, if you think about not just the jobs created at the facility that we're building, and it will open, we're hoping, springtime, March sometime, so we've already made a lot of advances on what's going on. We'll be hiring local talent and creating jobs at the facility, but then we're also going to be expanding the footprint of where the corn production is grown. And so those farmers that help us create that will also be hiring labor to facilitate their production, and the skill sets just continue to expand. So where we are today is around, I think it's around 25,000 metric tons of corn produced. When this facility is up and running, it'll be over 70,000, which should get to around 20 million hectares of hybrid corn in Zambia. And that will probably impact around 10 million smallholder farmers in the area. So the facility itself is a big deal, but what happens after that is probably even more important in the area.
Great, great, great. Well, we've heard a little bit about infrastructure and the importance of that, and how some of these investments that the U.S. is making through MCC is going to help enable the movement of goods and services. I should also mention that the Lobito Railway Corridor is being renovated and expanded. It's going to also play a major role, we think, in the transformation in the ag sector, which is one of the reasons the why now question is about all of the U.S. government and other investment going into the railway, which can also complement. They'll be mutually complementary. I want to turn now to Satya and OFI. As I understand it, you have been in Zambia since 2012. 12 years ago, you purchased the Northern Coffee Corporation, the largest coffee estate in Zambia. What inspired you to make the investment, and what's worked well, and what would have made things a bit easier?
First of all, thanks a lot for MCC, USAID, and Ministry of Agriculture Zambia for having us, and also for World Food Prize Foundation. So in the first decade of in the agriculture, climate and disease destroyed the coffee crops in Zambia, and this is one of the largest plantation. It went into receivership, and we had an opportunity to buy this asset in 2012, and it took some time for us to correct the asset in terms of finding the right varieties that can resist the disease and the climate vagaries. But the Almighty has blessed in terms of the weather and the elevation. It's one of the amazing places to grow the coffee. Many in the world is not aware about Zambian coffee quality and the taste and flavor. Zambia was in the coffee map with a high quality coffee way back in 1970s. So this was one of the opportunity, being one of the biggest stakeholders in coffee crop, to rejuvenate this plantation and reach that. And it took a long time for us to get to that level. But what is more important and what is pleasing us is that just not about the weather and the infrastructure we have put in and the package of practice, more importantly, the community and the people. And the talent of the people is amazing. We have not imported too much talent into the turning around of this big farm. Mostly local talents were available, and we got trainees from the colleges, and three big segments of our farmers is led by our locally grown talent. And Minister also talked about the tractors. Many tractors are run by female drivers there. So it's an equal opportunity, and we now in the northern province of Zambia, we are the largest employer. During the peak of the harvest season, we employ about 15,000 rural laborers and employees, and about 6,500 families depend on this segment of our farm. It's totally about 7,000 hectares, but right now we have 2,500 hectares of coffee cultivation going on. Yeah.
Thank you. And I should mention that you announced a $52 million investment over the next 4 years to expand your coffee sourcing business. Is there anything about that specific investment you'd like to add?
So having done the first part is to ensure that this farm or this economic engine around the community also survives. We all know how the volatility of world is now. The coffee prices have moved up by 80%, gone down by 80%, went up again by 80% in the last 6 months. And ministers talked about the drought that has hit last year. Even before that, in 2017, we had a drought year. We built dam. Today, we are fortifying our irrigation capacity. The rainfall is about 1,200 millimeter. but we need more rain, so we have created an irrigation system and also a dam. We thank Zambian government and the agriculture ministry. Last year when the drought was there, they could give some enough water for us to make sure that the coffee crop is surviving in the estate. And added to that, we also created a lot of training programs and also nutrition, and we are creating a living landscape around our farm. We have planted about 30,000 indigenous trees, and also planning to take up some extra crop other than coffee, because coffee has got a challenging environment. You need to have irrigation. So there are coffee plantations or estates available in the country, but to make it smallholder, we are also experimenting with chilies. So if the chili crop really goes up, well, then we can propagate that. So we have this living landscape program, and then continuing to invest in the crop and irrigation to manage the estate. This is the 4-year plan. This is not 1-year investment you talked about, Dina. It is for 4 years. Yeah.
Thank you. It's great to hear about your vision and plans for a sustainable business model for Zambia. Sustainability in the development sector often means some different things, and I'd like to come back to Alice to talk a little bit about what sustainability looks like. In some ways, for development actors, it's often community ownership or the right government policies or a strong private sector. What do you see are going to be the key ingredients to drive that sustainable growth?
Thanks, Dina. Well, I think you've touched on them. I mean, sustainability can mean a lot of different things. We often think about it as meaning things to do with environmental concerns, and that's certainly very relevant here. But for our work, what it means is continuity. So MCC is not an organization that we work with a country for a fixed number of years, and then that's it. So there's a very fixed timeline where all the projects have to come to an end. And so we start all of our work by first of all, working very closely with governments to understand what their priorities are, because we don't want to work on areas where it would be a low priority. So we want to make sure that the priorities align. The way that we work is very much hand in hand with governments from the very beginning all the way through implementation. So when our work is done, we know we will be successful if the governments feel like they own it and it's their work. And we certainly saw that in the case of our first program in Zambia, and we're very optimistic, same thing with the second one. The second thing is about the private sector, and I think, Minister, you framed it very well, which is that given the budgetary situation in Zambia, how important it is for the private sector to come in and really take up a lot of the production opportunities that are there. And so a lot of the work that we're doing at this stage is to identify what are the key constraints in place that need to be overcome in order to create a more favorable ecosystem for the private sector to come in. So it really is about the private sector coming in and taking up the opportunities that we hope we're going to, working with the government, enable.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, back to you. We would love to hear a little bit more about some of the policy and institutional reforms that you're now taking now and that you might be thinking about taking to really attract agricultural investors.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, I think a message to the audience. Bayer is not going to come and invest $33 million if things are not right in Zambia. This is a living example. I'm so glad that you are here, sir. Very, very glad, doctor, that you are here. I want to repeat, the Bayer is a very scientific, institution, not only in the seed industry, but in the way they do things. So they will not go to a country and invest to go and produce 70,000 metric tons of seed if that country is not right. Zambia, for your own information, is the #1 supplier, exporter of seed in Africa. So our seed goes in the region, and our seed now is penetrating the European market. There's some seed, vegetable seed, which you have here in America, which is from Zambia. There's one farmer who is doing it, direct coming to the Dutch, and then Dutchland, Holland, and then finds its way here. 2, our coffee colleagues are not going to think of investing another 52 million if things are not right. So we are working very hard. Let me give an example of bear. When we say that our market is open for exports, we were in the middle of drought, and everyone was saying one thing we should worry about is seed. We might not have seed to sell the next season. We allowed bear to export their seed. We couldn't stop them from exporting because that was going to create a very big problem for their buyers who are not in a drought situation. They are looking for that seed, and we're going to destroy the business etiquette. They came to the office. We sat. In my office, I said, no, we're not stopping. Please give. And Bayer did, and they still kept some for the local market. So we're very grateful for your investment. Very grateful, sir, also for the coffee investment. Now, there is an issue here which I think we need to look at. The MCC, Madam seated next to me, the Honorable Excellency next to me here, has got 20 passing points for you to receive the MCC finance. 20. 1, you have to be politically proper. 2, you have to be this. You have to look at people. You have to look. 20 of them. And yes, we went through them. And that's why I am here. That's why they're giving us another amount, almost 800 million. And we'll make sure that that is the 2 compacts, the first and this one. It's about it's above $800 million. So we'll make sure that this money is used properly. Now, you asked a specific question. What are the policy issues? Let me give an example. In the marketing, the credit of crop in Zambia, we have an institution that looks after our national strategic reserve called the Food Reserve Agency. It has been notorious lately by being on the market and disturbing the market price. And because they get money from the government, they can cause quite a lot of distortion. We have agreed that we will look at the role of that agency. There is the issue of agriculture credit. Right now, we are having difficulties to pay the small-scale farmers who are giving us a lot of their maize and other crops. We want to go into innovation, a little bit of innovation and learn, and that is the warehouse receipting system. So that once a farmer gives you the maize, he has value. That document he has value. That's how a lot of you are doing it. We are not doing that. We want to learn, and we have put it as part of this current system. Then the other one is the issue of just being consistent, like I explained as the case was with Bayer. We want to be very, very clear as a country. And this is not just lecture room stuff where you talk of predictability. This is real. We want to be clear in our policies. We want to be transparent in our policies. We want to be predictable in our policies. I think all those who have had a little bit of investment in Zambia will know that this is a politically stable country with a very stable president who checks what we do. I know he's seeing what I'm saying right now, so I have to be careful what I'm saying here. Otherwise, I might not jump out of that plane. So we are a very stable country politically. We have changed presidents, 7 of them. The current president is the 7th. You will never hear of gunshots in Zambia. We don't know. In fact, we always joke that when we hear a gunshot, we run there to go and see what is happening. Whilst, countries that know, you run away from that. But in Zambia, we are so friendly. And I was happy you mentioned that the nature, the culture of hard work is very, very apparent in our country. We are a people that are very, very hardworking. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I was going to give you one last question, which is why Zambia, why now? But I think you've covered the territory really well. And that gives us some time to open it up to the audience for questions. So I think I have somebody who's going to help me, who's got a microphone. We have a gentleman here. And let's take 2 or 3 questions at once so that we can hear from some of the folks in the audience.
Your Excellency, good to finally meet you. here in the US. I'm an investor in Zambia. My name is Olawale. I work for JR Farms. It's a family business owned by my wife and I. We've been operating for 11 years. I live in Paris with my family. We got into Zambia 3 years ago, and right now we have a factory in Chilanga in Lusaka province, and we work in a livestock value chain. We're producing livestock feed. And as an investor, I can testify that Zambia is a really lovely ecosystem to work. Small population, but also we chose Zambia because Zambia is the only country around the region that has land border with 7 other countries. So when you're dealing in Zambia, you're not dealing only in Zambia, but you're dealing with other countries, with the other market, which is really strategic for us. Yeah, so very good job with the government, very peaceful people, very lovely country. We work in livestock, we're producing livestock feed, and my question is about the drought. We all know that the drought is a big issue in Zambia. And when we came in Zambia, we know that maize, which is corn, is a staple. So we did some research, and we realized cassava is still underused in Zambia. And it could be a game changer because I'm coming from Nigeria. I'm Nigerian by origin, and we work in cassava value chain in Nigeria. And I know how much cassava has really empowered a lot of people in West Africa. So in Zambia, we realized cassava is not really developed. I went to Luapula. I went to Mansa, Kafuanka, Samfia, all this region I went around, all to Lubumbashi in Congo. So I understood the whole thing, and we moved also with Zambian breweries, because they have a cassava milling plant in Mukushi. I was also there. So I know this region quite well with cassava. And we try to work with cassava farmers in Luapula. You know, they're all in the north. But it was difficult because our plant is in Chilanga, which is quite very far. Yeah, so what we're trying to do is to use cassava peels to process livestock feed, which we already did with the CG group in Nigeria, which is very unique and can reduce the pressure on maize, which is consumed by humans in Zambia and livestock, right? Now, is the government of Zambia, what is the plan of the government of Zambia? Because the previous government, we saw that they tried to do something around cassava. What is the current plan you have on cassava? We're working with the CG group, IITA in Lusaka now, to put in place outgrower scheme within 0 to 300 Ks in Lusaka region, Chongwe and all these areas, to have cassava outgrower scheme. Is there anything your regime is thinking about cassava? Because it's really climate resilient.
Thank you.
And can grow with little water.
I love that question because one of the main focus of Feed the Future is crop diversification. So there you have, you've brought it up, and we'll come to the panelists in a minute. Other questions from the audience? One in the middle of the room. Oh, one back here.
Good afternoon or good morning. My name is Mondale Smith. I work for AgriSampo. We are a global crop insurance company. And when you talked about drought, it made me wonder, how do you handle drought or crop insurance in Zambia?
Thank you. There's a woman here in the middle of the room.
Thank you. Hannah Kyle, Opportunity International. We are an organization that works with capital mobilization and encouraging financial institutions in many of the countries that have come up today to go further down market in their lending. And so my question is specifically to hear a little bit more about how access to finance, which has been mentioned by everybody, factors into the new investment between the government of Zambia and MCC, and how that can be encouraged, because we've seen a lot in many other well-structured programs that the capital tends to focus on the SME level and above, given that they are in a better place to receive it, right? So what we do is we work both with smallholder farmers and with financial institutions, but I would be very interested to hear how that will work going forward in Zambia. Thank you.
Okay. We have just 2 minutes remaining in our program, so I'm going to turn it back to the panelists, and I'd like to start, Honorable Minister, maybe we'll start with the cassava question.
Thank you very much. In the interest of time, I'll be very, very direct. And I gave you a card. Please, let's talk. We have just, I think, last month, opened up another cassava plant in Chiwombo, 120 metric ton cassava plant in Chiwombo. And I don't think they really know what they want to do with the peels. So let us talk. We can connect there. Thank you very much. Secondly, to you also, we are at a time when we are parceling out land. We have gotten about 1 million hectares of land, 100,000 in each province. We have got 10 provinces, so that's 1 million. And we are giving out this land to potential investors in farming. So if you wanted land for your cassava outgrower scheme, let's talk. We will give you the land so that you can have small-scale farmers. You can put it in, grid it in small pieces and give it to the farmers so that they cultivate for you. So thank you very much for investment. Secondly, Dr. Smith, Mr. Smith, crop insurance. Again, let us maybe have a chat outside this. We are actually involved in a bit of insurance for the farmer, okay? We have a program called the Farmer Input Support Program, where it is a subsidized program to small-scale farmers. We are dealing with 1,024,000, to be specific, 434 farmers. Now, these farmers, we give them the only money that they pay like a 400 kwacha divided by 26 if you want to know how many dollars that is. And that is all they pay. Then we give them like a 9,000 package, fertilizer, seed, lime, and other things that they can get. We insure these people. But I must say to you, the insurance is very, very weak, because once there's a drought, they don't really get back what is due to them. So we are looking for strong insurance performance to see how our friends are doing it so that we can have that also. So please, I'll give you my card, we chat. Then, Madam, asset finance. I think the MCC management will be very, very happy to talk to you, because a huge portion of the $491.75 million that we are getting is going into de-risking the small-scale farmer towards asset finance, because you will not want to deal with the type of small-scale farm I have. I'm talking about poor people. The only role they have is the hard work. They just have a couple of chickens, maybe a goat here, a pig there, a hog, you call them here, running around there. Not much. So how do banks give them? The risk is so high. They need to be de-risked, and that is where funds like what we are getting come in. We are also doing it as Zambia. As a government, we have a few farmers we are trying to give asset and de-risk them, and we do it through what we call our credit guarantee scheme. So we give money to the credit guarantee scheme quietly, and the credit guarantee scheme gives to the private banks. Because if that small farmer knew that the government has secured him, he won't pay. They will simply not pay. So we keep away. We don't normally talk about a credit guarantee scheme. Thank you that there's no small-scale farmer here, because then the news will start leaking. So I thank you for that.
Alice, over to you for any comments on those questions.
I know we're out of time. We'd be happy to talk to you. The minister's absolutely right. We'd be happy to talk to you further about what we're doing on the finance side and get you the specifics. So let's grab a card.
I would just add, from USAID's perspective, our goal of helping 500 million people adapt to a changing climate includes investing in climate information services and insurance products, weather-based index insurance for farmers and pastoralists. Also happy to share more with you on that. And obviously on the finance side, that's another major investment area for aid, both with the VSLAs and the SACOs, these small investments, microfinance type things for the smallholder, but then de-risking commercial banks to invest, and then bigger investments through de-risking funds of funds, which we just announced last week in Washington as well. So our time together has come to an end. Thank you for being such a wonderful audience. Please stay. We can answer questions and continue the conversation.